I've got the black screen.
Yep.
We're going to need to update that screen.
Can't really update the screen. They won't let us do a brand compliant developer icon.
So it had to be
So just not going to change it. All right. Well, the audio is going, so let's go ahead and switch in.
All right. Welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for May 31st, 2019. I am Dave Slusher. I'm here with Chuck Tomasi and Andrew Barnes. It is the end of the month. It's the end of the week. And we're going to close this out the best way we know possible, beer and coding. So welcome, gentlemen. It's the first time this configuration has been together in some time.
Months.
It is.
So before we go too far, Andrew and I had a little bit of our knowledge debrief last time. We can do a little bit of that check since you were out of the country. But before we go too far, let me tell you the agenda for today is we're going to return to the Travel Tracker application, which is kind of one of the classics of this. Possibly at this point, maybe the most long live project from the first appearance to today.
I think it has its own playlist.
Quite possibly. It could, for sure. Because we're going to be traveling next week, and we've had some problems, and we got to fix some bit rot and do some stuff. So we want this thing to we want to increase the usability by next week. So we're going to work on some of that. But first, let's do the introduction. Andrew.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Andrew Barnes, developer advocate, ServiceNow. I'm going to come up here in a year at ServiceNow in a bit. Been doing ServiceNow work over 4 years now. Been at a couple of customers as a developer lead and product owner, and was an implementation partner. Been doing enterprise applications, software development stuff for a mighty long time now. And I just love doing this show on Fridays.
All right. Chuck.
Hi, my name is Chuck Tomasi. I'm a senior TPMM with ServiceNow. Been here for 3,280 days. Or if you do the math, my 9-year anniversary is 1 week from today.
Yay!
I was a customer for a couple of years before that. My specialty is in custom applications, integrations, and the platform in general. So I love hanging out here and learning and sharing and being part of the fun.
All right. And I'm Dave Slusher, also developer advocate with ServiceNow. I've been here 5.5 years. Was in PS before that with Chuck. And for a small group of people, we run into each other all the time. Such as knowledge. There was something like 20 people through there, but they're like 20% of the interactions I have. So let's go one more time around the horn. And beers. Same order. Andrew.
All right. So in the Slack channel today, I threw up a picture of the beers I was going to have choices, and the choice was almost unanimous. Today I'm going to have the mango habanero sour ale.
Oh my goodness.
I have totally been in one of our local kind of craft friendly bars. Texted Andrew a picture of the menu and said, "Tell me which one you would order from here." And totally. It's sour and farmhouse ale goes kind of there is totally his wheelhouse.
Andrew, I'm gonna send you that list next time. I need something for my wife. You and her have similar tastes.
All right, Chuck, what are you drinking?
I have from the College Street Brewhouse in Lake Havasu, Arizona, going local, the Big Blue Van Blueberry Wheat.
All right. And I'm going. I'm sure I've had this on here before because it's available at all these, which means I can get it right down the street. The Shoreview Lemon Shandy. It is hot as anything out here. And so I'm splitting the difference between beer and lemonade with a nice lemon shandy. All right. Chuck, do you want to talk a little bit about your knowledge decompression before we get going?
Yeah, sure. I had a wonderful knowledge. Busy. But a huge thanks to all of my coworkers who stepped up and contributed. I did get one of the ServiceNow carpenter pencils from Josh Bray. That was very nice of him to let me get a laser engraved pencil before everybody else came into the expo hall. Had a wonderful time. talking with people, doing the sessions. It was a bit busier than I would have liked because I would have liked to hang out with people and say hi. But as it was, we were able to coordinate even minimal meetups through LinkedIn. Somebody says, "Hey, where are you? I'd like to get a picture." So I'd say, "I'm going to be by the escalators by registration from 12:45 to 1:15. Let's meet there." Other than that, it was just competing priorities. The builder space went well. I was responsible for that. The health club, if you stop by there, we had some Raspberry Pi based devices that talk to ServiceNow, customer service management. That was a lot of fun. People doing jumping jacks and generally making fools of themselves. The Jeopardy game went very well in the developer theater. We were playing that 3 times, and I am very close to getting that released on Share. I recorded the audio for the video that needs to go with that when I post that. So look for the Jeopardy game in the near future on Share. I'll have that with sample data so you can play it almost immediately when you set up your players. It was a great time. Afterwards, I went on 2 weeks of PTO. So just came back from that. I'm ready to go, recharged, ramped up, and glad that the 13 or so projects that I needed to get done by Knowledge got all done. Again, huge thanks to my coworkers for that. And now the project list looks a little more reasonable.
All right.
Sorry about that echo issue. I've never seen it do that by default before, but it's fixed now. So sorry about that. We had an echo issue.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear anything, but I'm on mute on YouTube.
It was just in OBS. It was echoing itself.
Okay. So let me go ahead and I'm going to start the screen share and we'll get into this. And we're actually, as I was telling the guys in the pre-show, I'm pivoting a little bit because what I want to do, I'll tell a little bit of the story is, so we've got the travel tracker, right? And so it intakes our Concur itineraries, does some nice ServiceNow stuff to it. One of the things it does is it can generate notifications. And we have been moving those away from email because we have kind of made the decisions like, don't send me an email if there's nothing to act on. And particularly for like ephemeral information like this that really is only, has like a 20-minute life cycle, just send it to Slack, right? We don't care about this thing. I don't want to have to delete the email. So what we did was we shifted these notifications to Slack. And so we have a nice spoke to do that. We have a flow that we set up.
Nice.
I made a very bad mistake. When did I do this, Andrew? It must have been in March, right? When we were
it was around March.
I made a terrible mistake on my flow trigger, where I set it to trigger my flow that registers the webhook, and I set it to do that on change or update, because what I was trying to do was get it to go back and regenerate the webhooks for some older flows that were already, that had already executed one time. So I did this. What I did not think about is that, and I also did not go into the advanced options and set it so it's only an interactive session. So then what I didn't think about is that one of the side effects of this flow is that it writes the webhook alert ID back to the record.
Oh,
what I started was a loop of the flow triggering itself.
Yep.
And so I caused a registration storm of these webhooks, which means that the very first time that there was an event that happened, Flight Aware sent hundreds of packets into the system.
I thought you were going to say like your Slack API blocked you for a rate limit or something.
I wish it had, because so what happened was, and we all know this, like when you have a thing that goes, particularly something like this, and now it affected basically everyone. It would have been one thing if it was just me and Andrew in our Slack channel. Right. We could have laughed it off, but it went to the larger team. So there's like a 15-person team. What happens is when things like this happen is people lose confidence in your app. And so you have maybe one of those in you. Right. In a second, everyone says, just turn this thing off.
Just turn it off.
I don't want to deal with this.
Stop sending it here.
Yes. So what we're trying to do is, so even with that, we still sometimes we get this multiple notification problem. So it's not as bad as hundreds, but it is bad enough. And so it's like 3 or 4. And so having really burnt my karma on the one thing, I really feel a pressure to get this down to 1 notification per event by next week. So that's the background of what got us here. And so one of what this has turned into is how do you, bearing in mind that this happens basically in the live data situation, and I can't really debug it, and I can't really, I tried to duplicate it and it wasn't the problem I thought it was. So now what we're in is we're looking at, given what I can, how can I historically recreate the problem, figure out from just the stuff sitting on my instance what the problem is, and fix it without bugging everyone else, without generating the live data. So so I'm going to go ahead and share, and we'll start working through this.
Yeah, so, and that's a fairly common scenario, right? Is that you have dynamic integrations, and you have an event that causes a problem, and you need to prevent that from happening again without needing that event to occur again.
Now, one of the things that was the thing that I first was kind of addressing and I was worried about is what if the problem is being caused because it was doing something about when you're in multiple notification groups. And that's actually what I thought the problem was. So I started looking at that earlier today. And so one of the things that I did, and I have talked about this pattern that I have before, where one of the things that I log, and I will show you one of the log messages, bearing in mind we are leaking a little bit of PII, but we're going to leak it only about Andrew and myself in the form of
Andrew. Can we make the screen bigger on YouTube?
I'm working on it.
Okay, I figured you were.
All right, so you'll notice that one of the things I do, and I've always done this, is I log the JSON packet of everything that comes in via webhooks, because sometimes, exactly in this kind of situation, I want to replay the webhook.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've done here. And so what we're actually looking at is the replay of something else. But rather than having to dig for it, I had to dig like a month and a half back to find the actual live one. We're going to go to it's going to be the same packet either way. So you see that I've got this. This is what the packet looks like when it comes from the flight notifier. So you see a bunch of stuff. A lot of this stuff falls on the ground. The filed airspeed knots at 349. That's not actually something I hacked on. Although it would be, if you really cared, that's in the packet. Right? There's a lot of information that we don't use that's in the packet.
Dave, a quick tip. Something that I've done in the past on some of my dev instances is if you leave off that preceding label and just put JSON into that outbound message, you just stringify your thing and throw it in there. You can put the JSON_view equals true attribute on that message field, and then you get the little icon to format it nicely. So you can pop that up, and you get the nice formatted JSON, easy to read, easy to debug.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So here what we have, and in fact, I actually didn't have to dig for it because I still have it in my script API Explorer. So in those circumstances where I want to replay the webhook, I can just do it. So what I was going to do is, and one of the beautiful things about when you're trying to debug a problem with a webhook is if you generate it itself from the REST API Explorer, this is the only way you're going to get this, where you're in the synchronous session with your scripted REST API. If the integration is doing it, you're not in the synchronous session, and your debugger won't break. So I thought, okay, maybe we're going to break it, the debugger, and kind of see. I can walk through and I can see where these extra bogus things are coming from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send this. We're going to generate a new one of these guys. It's a post. Asked me to confirm. It went through all right. We're going to check down here. This is in fact our Slack room that Andrew and I share, and we are the only two members in this Slack. And so within somewhere in the next 10 seconds or so, one would expect that we would get that. It may take a little bit. There you go. What I expected to see was a few notifications, and what I got was one. So immediately I kind of shot down my own pet theory about what was happening. Like, oh, this is not the problem that I thought it was, because
Bug fixed. Let's go home.
Well, no, that's actually worse, right? Because now, like, well, okay, because if I could duplicate it, then I could fix it and have some reasonable level of confidence that I was fixing it. So now what I'm getting is not the path that I thought it was. So now I had to start looking at other potential options. So immediately, like as soon as I started looking, I figured out a big problem I had created for myself. One of which is, and I actually found this by accident because I was looking at the flow context. So all right, let's look and see. So now the next thing is, having demonstrated to myself that in fact there's no control that keeps me from registering the same webhook over and over. It's like, am I registering the same webhook over and over? And I went back to those logs, and I could see that for those times a couple months ago when we were getting multiple notifications, we were absolutely getting multiple JSON packets. So the webhook was in fact getting hit, was righteously getting hit multiple times, which tells me that I have registered the webhook multiple times. So now what's happening that's running it? And I said, okay, do I have multiple copies of the flow running right now against our upcoming flights? So I went to look at the flows, and I see that no, I don't. I have basically every flight has exactly one flow running against it. And if we look at the status of these things, one of the nice things that, and the reason that I converted these to Madrid flows, is that all of these flows, if I look at them, this is the thing. Oh, I was actually trying to look at the flow, but you'll notice what I'm looking at.
Workflows. Workflow context list.
And they're running.
And they're running.
And I meant to turn this off. These are supposed to be off. I'm supposed to be looking at the flows, not the workflows. So problem one
I want to turn those off. Yeah.
My flow and my workflow are running. I was actually meant to look at active flows. And in fact, I thought I was looking at active flows until 1 second ago.
I was going to say, you were saying one thing, and I thought, well, maybe.
And so, in fact, where did my active flows go? Oh, when did okay. So
that's funny.
There are none currently active.
There are none currently active. And there should actually be a couple flows running. So we may have multiple problems here. Let's get rid of this. And let's look at the register Madrid webhook. And these are the ones that we want. Let me go ahead and just filter on these guys, because this is the only one that I care about. All the rest of these things. And these guys.
And there were several.
These errored out. And why would these error out? So we got actually two things to look at, or a couple things to look at. One of which is there's more than one webhook. And a couple of these guys, I realized I had the old flow, the new flow, and the workflow were all still running, even though I was trying to turn them off.
Whoops.
So right away, the 3 notifications actually may be solved. So now the question here is, and this is a thing, let's look at this, let's go into this, is that I have seen errors, and these were not errored out like an hour ago. So what happened to these guys in the last
hour? Yeah.
Yes. So this is like brand new. And now here is we're putting the live in the live code because because what this thing is supposed to do, wake up.
Error on the
scope glide date time. Scope glide date time. Script.
Is it waiting for something?
Line 16.
Wait for duration of time.
It was supposed to wait until 2 days before the flight. And the flight is on Tuesday.
But it didn't even get that far.
It didn't even get that far. But here's the thing, is it errored out. Oh, so, this one errored out.
Zoom into your steps.
Yeah. So let's zoom into this step.
Oh, so
scope that glide gate time. Okay, so now let's look at the script include. One of the things that I have done, so go ahead and open Studio. And unfortunately, do you guys know how to move the zoom toolbar out of the way? Is there a way to move it?
Nope.
Unfortunately.
It is exactly where I want to be clicking. So I'm gonna have
WebEx would do that too.
All right, so let's go ahead and go over to Studio. It was one of the things I could do here. I took for some one of the things I started doing, and you'll see this in all my script includes, specifically for that kind of message.
I want to see if it does what I do.
Do you put the sysid in the
description field?
Description, so that you can search on it if you have to.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's what I did. It's annoying.
B588. All right. Let's do that.
Yeah. Really? We couldn't put a display value in the log?
B588. B588.
So one nice thing that may help in the future is being able to get to that script include right from there. Yeah.
That would be actually fantastic. If you could just
click it, and
I could just click it from right there, and it would be the live.
There may or may not be something coming very soon for that.
All right.
So that wasn't too much of a teaser, was it?
All right, there we are. So that's my flight aware utils. I probably could have guessed it, but That's the weird hack to figure that out. All right. Yep. So when we look at this, line 16 is erroring out. So let's look and see. 16 is glide date time.
Apparently there's a monsoon at my house now. Time.
Interesting. All right. So let's look at this record. So let's look at the start time value in this record. So let's look at the record that triggered it.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at this guy.
Yeah, open current record.
Open current record.
Start time.
Start time is, now the question being, we don't know what the start time was at execution time.
Sure we do. It should be in
we do. It'll be in there. Yeah.
In the flow.
So what is FA flat ID? Down here.
No, it doesn't have the details of it there because it wasn't acting on it directly. If we were doing something flow designer directly with it, we would have seen the runtime value. But since it's out into a script include, it doesn't capture that, unfortunately.
Can I introspect the record from here? It won't. So now the question is,
does the record have history on it?
Let's see.
Probably not going to be auditable by default.
I don't. Yeah, it is not.
You could see if it had not been edited, if create time and update time are the same.
Or the mod count.
All right. Let's go straight to here. Created on 5/21.
Updated
5/24. I'm wondering, do I create and then populate? That's not impossible. Do I create and then update? Because there's something happening 17 seconds after this. So question being, is this thing running? Is it running sooner than I want it to be? And so I'll be honest, this is actually not what I thought we were jumping into, but this is actually absolutely needs to be fixed. So what in the heck could be happening here to make this not happen? So now actually what we're going to do is I think maybe we will back up. And so the same thing I was saying before about replaying that, let me see if I can replay.
Yeah, you can replay that payload and
replay the
generate it and watch it live.
Payload. Find any one of these that has to side. There you go. Let's
start the script debugger. Do you want to start the script debugger?
I actually want to look at the log because I want to. First thing I want to do is try to find the payload of WorldMate.
Oh sure.
Oh shoot! And WorldMate. Well, this is actually. I'm just going to look for the. So WorldMate is the API. This is where when I talk about how this is like a complete Rube Goldberg machine. WorldMate is the one where I have created a Gmail inbox that is solely to forward this stuff because it forwards. Because the email, I have failed so hard to get the synchronous API working, but the email one works fine. And it will hit my webhook if I send it an email. But you'll notice it's also XML. So I have hit that point. I don't know if you guys are at this point where I don't even want to see XML in my life. I'm just so over XML.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of it too.
I'm just so done with it. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to capture this XML payload, which is kind of a pain. It's huge. See that it's got this like NS2 WorldMate parsing result, et cetera, et cetera. I'm gonna go ahead and paste it to Evernote on the side right quick, just in case I need it again. If I can find my Evernote window. All right. So
XML is bad enough when they start coming up with their own a different namespace, then it gets worse.
Yeah. So I'll save that. Hopefully I won't need to go back to it. But now let's go back over to my REST API Explorer. Let's go ahead and, so what I can do with the thing you were suggesting, Chuck, is I think what I'm going to do. So we're going to go to WorldMate, and you'll notice that this is the one thing it has is accept parse message. So we'll give it the raw. And I think this is also, if you remember a while ago, I had to do the, where I posted about how I do the, how you accept it when you don't have the correct content negotiation. WorldMate is in fact the API that triggered all that, because WorldMate is the one that although it sends XML, it sends it as text plain. And so
what?
Oh,
just everything about it is so weird.
So janky. That is just hilarious.
It almost sounds like that URL form encoded thing.
So if we go down here, we actually look at my API. Let's look at the resource. I believe that this is the one where I had to set the content negotiation weird to make this work, because I had to set it to text plain. No, maybe this isn't the one.
That looks pretty standard right there.
Yeah.
I think I had to add text plain in here.
Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't, because it was finding nothing in common, because that was the one I couldn't figure out why it didn't even hit my webhook. And it didn't hit it because like it wouldn't even.
You weren't accepting text plain.
And I wasn't accepting text plain. It was only sending text plain.
And you didn't expect it to be text plain, because when you inspected it, it was clearly XML.
And this is when I had to find it out from Mockbin, because I'm like, it clearly hits Mockbin. What's wrong? And then I like really dig through and I can see it's like in the headers. Okay. So anyway, so we got that. So I'm going to replay this. So when I do that, let's go ahead and let's get my script include. Let's get the whole Rube Goldberg machine queued up here.
Up and ready.
Let's find my script include, which was over here. So we'll stop that here. Oh, you know what? Is it going to? No, I think it will be synchronous. I've got a breakpoint here.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna say, it's not a flow that triggers it. It should be happening in line
if it's not from flow and you're sending it from REST API Explorer, it should be synchronous.
All right, so we got the debugger started.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and start that. So I'm going to hit this. Hopefully we should get an end in the script debugger. Now, again, if this is timing sensitive, we might be in one of those situations where the act of attaching the debugger might be affecting the record. So I'm going to do this. It's possible, like the first time I do it, I might have the debugger, like while it's stopped in the debugger, it might not see the problem because whatever is happening fixes itself. Right?
You've invented quantum computing, Dave. The act of observing it affects the.
Oh, this is
really does.
Trust me. There was a thing where we had SSL connections. We had a mutex that was not being set in SSL connections, and it took me days of connecting with GDB over and over and over again to actually see the thing happen one time, because the slowdown of having the debugger kept the bug from happening reliably. It was nuts. Okay. This is like old guy debugging war story. All right, here we go. Let's do this. Let's see if we hit my script debugger.
No.
Undefined value has no properties.
It's a different script include though.
Yeah, this is the accept parse message for world.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So this is, so I told it text plain.
That seems
fine. I gave it raw body, which is this.
Did you have to add any
XML
parameters or anything to?
Shouldn't.
Or valid?
I made it to the end of that. There's the request body.
Mm-hmm.
The undefined value has no properties. Ugh. This is not. We're now.
We traded one error for another.
One error we're into an error I don't actually care about, trying to find the error I do care about. Why is this thing? It's a script include. All right, so let's take 1 second and go into this thing. And this one I don't have to hunt for because I know which one it is. In the gazillion script includes, we got this one. And let's find that error.
That's not the one it flagged. It flagged 0E38.
0E3. Oh, 0E38. Line 139. So this is now, in fact, probably a utility that this guy calls.
Yeah.
Good Lord. All right. All right. So which one is that?
Oh, where are you?
Moment time zone with data.
Oh.
That's actually a little bit promising. So that.
But that's not your code.
139.
Yeah, but maybe we're not sending out something it wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 139 packed string. So something in the time zone. I wonder if moment isn't the root of this, all these problems. certainly.
Well, when you have time issues,
yeah,
Moment is the thing you're doing all the time, controlling with.
Yeah, let's go through and let's see. So let's go back to the log. Let's find the log from right now. And will this have unfortunately got me out of my call stack, which is a standard ServiceNow problem. Let's find this error, which should be nice and close to the top. Let's see if we can find.
It's just when you say that the table cleaner comes along.
Let's see if there's no. Is there a call stack in here?
Warning: the undefined value has no problems.
Yeah, these guys are hard to find call stacks in. So that's only telling me the same thing that I know from the
call stack's in there.
So if I see, is this telling me mine?
And Jay says throw it in a try catch and see if it works then.
That's not the worst idea I've ever heard. In fact, I'm gonna say that's a great idea.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
All right, so let's do. So now the question is in this guy, accept parsed email. We could just convert parsed email to JSON, and then. So this is, you'll see this is actually a very poorly factored, it's like basically one giant monolith here. So that's probably happening in my, this guy right here. So get value from JSON. So XML to JSON. So this thing up here is actually probably needs to go away because I think it's not getting used at all. So let's say, how gross do we want to be? The entirety of this
disgustingly gross.
All right, let's
don't care about this error.
Make sure that I actually am. All right, done. Oh, yeah.
Oops.
Did cause myself a scope error by
declaring JSON inside.
Yeah, I'm just gonna solve this one scope error by moving that one down
23 and move it out.
Or move it up.
Yep.
Oh, very good.
Because I think actually my problem might be at line 23. So I'm just gonna declare JSON up there and let me make sure I don't have another giant scope error. It looks like it. All right, let's save this, try it again. That is hokey, but sometimes hokey. All right, message handled. Now, did I actually?
Mischief handled is what it should have said.
Oh, mischief managed.
Mischief managed. That's what it was.
All right, so let's look and see. Did I create a new record in the flight right now?
Everybody take a drink.
Yeah, that one deserved it.
Updated.
Oh.
I did not create a new one, but actually, I don't know that I'm guaranteed to have created a new one because I have a bunch of lookup or.
So it doesn't create another one if it's a dupe?
Let's look at itineraries because I think that might be more likely. Did I create a new itinerary just now? One of my big problems is that actually itineraries need to be singleton-like, and they're not right now. So let's see if I created myself a new itinerary. I did just now. Okay. So the thing actually did go through. Here's what I'm going to do, Andrew, is we're going to look at your itinerary. This is not something I would do in normal. Oh, but it didn't actually it didn't associate flights because it
said that flight, it already exists, I guess.
No, I think what happened is I think the try catch abandoned it before any of the stuff happened.
Yep.
So now I'm actually I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place in the debugging process, which is not atypical doing this job. So we created itinerary, we created travel groups. We didn't create any flights. So we have clearly died before then. And we know where we died because we died in the, oh, actually, can I get a nice call stack? Can this thing tell me the call stack here? JavaScript call stack error. Doesn't the error in the catch have a call stack method?
Aside from the message, I don't know that I've ever used anything, but it is an object, so it might have something.
Error prototype stack. There you go. The non-standard stack property of errors. That doesn't sound promising.
It's from MDN.
JSON.error equal to E. That's what Jace says.
JSON.error equal to E. Okay. Well, or I can even just log it. So that's all I need to do, really. Let's say info.
Yeah, so he says, catch E and then brackets JSON.E equal to E.
Brackets JSON.
Yeah. JSON.E equal to E.
Equal to E. And that should, like in the toString, should do that. Okay. So that should turn it.
I don't know what that does, but
I don't know. I think what he's saying is I should see it.
And I'm believing Jace today.
All right. Jace.
He's on point.
All right, Jace. This is a vote of confidence in you. We're going to do that. We're going to redo this and see what we get back here. So this should override that result, and then we should see the error right there. We should see all what we're expecting to see. And did I correctly save that?
Oh, yeah. He said, because you're returning JSON below it. So the JSON object will now have nothing but your error. So that makes sense.
Let me hit it one more time.
Now that makes sense. I was just going to do it.
Just getting,
as much as I say, don't believe code from the internet. I was like, today I know who the internet is and I'm going to believe them.
Except I'm not seeing, I'm actually seeing the
sober one among us.
Seeing the same message.
So
let's go ahead and let's also
log it there.
Dump it.
Yeah, just
is log the one I can't do in scope?
Yes. Log is the one you can't do. So
you want info, debug, warn, error, or something. Now, do you want to stringify that? You want to do a JSON.stringify on JSON?
I want to do E dot
message. E dot E is an object.
E is an object. E dot stack. Is that right? Let's see. Well, you know what? I'm going to see an error one way or another.
Maybe doesn't have to put a try catch around his GS info.
Let's see if the error is that I don't have a stack. See something in the logs here right in 1 second. All right, so we're gonna hit this. What the hell message are we gonna get? That's the question to see. All right, so then when we go look in the logs,
what do we get there?
That S is important.
Note the use of list v3.
I don't see anything. Now this is weird to me because packet is converted. Now, how did I not get any error in there? How did I not get anything? Question being, did the error not happen that time?
That time? Yeah. Well, did you create a new itinerary with flights in it?
Let's see. This has gotten, again, the tabs have gotten way out of control here. This is, again, a fairly standard ServiceNow problem.
This is the regular day, right? In the life of.
Yep.
If you have less than 50 tabs when you finish the day, you're doing it wrong.
Wait, no, you got to bring up Service Portal too.
oddly enough, I have the service portal widget right over here. I created another different one. Let's see. Did it actually go through and create flights?
I'm going to vote for no.
I would be angry kind of
if it does. Actually going to bug me because no. So
it didn't.
It died, but we're also not getting anything useful out of this other thing.
Nightmare. Programmer's worst nightmare. No output, no errors.
You know what? I actually earlier we gave ourselves we have the tool here. We don't have to do any of this stuff. Let's get rid of this whole try catch.
Okay.
And let's go
debug
right here.
Yeah.
And we've got the debugger. Let's debug this guy. Now let's see. Oddly enough, we have breakpoints in here and we don't. So we're debugging like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit a breakpoint. We ought to hit the breakpoint, right?
Why didn't the debugger trip before though?
I don't know.
Maybe it errored.
Maybe errored before.
Yeah.
Breakpoint. Let's try it and let's see. And it didn't hit the breakpoint.
But you got a 200 okay also. That's interesting. What's the response?
Right, and that's minus my and there's not very meaningful. So let's even shoot.
You forgot to save.
I was gonna say that gets you every time.
You sure you saved? Oh, I've done that plenty today.
All right. One more time, but I expect
with feeling this time.
So we're back to the error, but we also didn't hit the breakpoint.
But no breakpoint.
So let's go ahead.
Didn't we hit a breakpoint?
I'm going to go slightly back. You know, here's that crazy code that I was talking about before where I got to do this weird data stream business. I'm going to put that in there. If I don't hit this at all, then that tells me that I'm not understanding something I'm doing. Because I should hit, see, why am I not getting that breakpoint at all?
And your debugger's up and happy?
Debugger is up in
session.
Debugger's up here, and you'll see it's actually got the breakpoint I just set. Did not stop in it. All right, I'm walking myself farther and farther from what I understand.
What you thought was the problem,
correct,
or what we.
Not that ever happens in a real life.
That doesn't ever happen either.
So this is extremely classic yak shave right here. Because you'll notice the last 3 problems I've touched at are not problems I really care about. They're problems that are gating me looking at the one problem that I care about, which is multiple notifications and the death of my flow. And so now we're just trying to trigger the thing that will duplicate
allow us to get far enough in there to test where we expect to fail.
All
right.
This is what you get for going to Penn and Teller. You've learned the art of distracted coding. You deflect your attention over here.
Look over here.
So I don't really care about this. I think what I'm going to actually do is
have a great day, Jace.
I think what I'm going to do is off on another screen.
Thanks for the help, Jace.
Is try to open my email, and I'm going to go janky. And where I'm not even sure which screen that went to. I may have to do a really fast. Can't tell where. Oh, there it is.
I'm really confused why it's not hitting your break point.
I don't understand it either. All right, so I'm going to go.
Yeah, it's got to be dying in there somewhere because it was affected by the try catch.
Yeah. So I'm going to do quickly in the background just so that we have something going on while we're trying this other things. I'm going to go find my itinerary. I'm going to re-forward it. So we're going to trigger that Rube Goldberg machine right now.
Okay.
So it takes time. So it's not going to be completely immediate. So it takes however long, and that's one of the things about the email interface is it could be anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes for the email part, and when the email finishes parsing, it'll hit my webhook. So somewhere in here we will hit that webhook, and then hopefully maybe we'll get enough information from that to see, do we get a new flow created? Do we get weird stuff in the creation of the records that it creates? Actually, what I should do quickly, I should delete my flight. So let's go ahead and
definitely has a chance to rebuild it the correct way.
Rebuild my flight. So We'll delete one flight, which is we're going to delete this Myrtle Beach flight.
Is that what you're forwarding in?
Yes. So let's look at, we don't want updated. We want start time. And delete this one right here. Delete that flight so that it can recreate it. Any luck, it didn't already trigger.
You're fishing for luck today.
That would be though. That would be very Murphy's Law, that the one time I need this thing to be fast. Usually my problem is not the speed of it. Usually the problem is the other speed. Okay. So when that thing comes back, it should actually create us a new record. It's going to look for that flight. It's going to not find it. It should create a new flight. And then we should see, does the brand new flow over here, we're going to get a new flow execution. And then does that thing go straight to error it out? I'm trying to think if there's something that we can do quickly that would give us some information about that. One thing that we want to see happen is I want to see, we'll probably also get the workflow, because I think I did not turn that off. We should get only one of these two. Flows running, because I went in and deactivated this register flight aware webhook is the old version. You'll see the register webhook Madrid is the one I want running.
Okay.
So see in previous eras, they were both running. So I want the one to happen and not the other. We want to see what happens with this. And again, this is more of the stack that I want to deal with, right? I don't really and truly want to have to trigger a new execution to see this, but we're kind of failing to duplicate the bug any other way. And so this is kind of where we started, right? Is like what tools do we have when the problem is the full integrated system and we don't have it in other ways? What do we do? So we had to, unfortunately, what I'd like to do is have something closer to my direct control, but I also don't want to spend hours making that part work. So you'll see that this is kind of the giving.
So where's the first step that this thing comes in? Does it come in? It's still the webhook, right? There's email parsing, yes, but then it's still a webhook coming in. Yeah.
The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to come through. It's going to get the parsed email, and then and then hit the. Let me show you the webhook, the WorldMate webhook. So this guy right here. This is the first entry point of this. From that point, it's going to get this. It's going to call the WorldMate utils webhook, which is going to be convert parsed email to JSON. And you'll notice that this is even actually kind of badly named because it's more than just, although it says this is something that, like, when you look at this, I'm actually looking at my past self saying, man, this needs a refactor in the worst way, because you'll notice that probably this began as converting it to JSON. And then what I did was I started sticking behavior in here and sticking logic in here, and it just has continued to go and go and go and go.
Downhill from there, huh? Yeah.
Can you shut the door, please? Shut the door. Shut the door.
All right. So
1 second. Can you shut the door, please?
Yeah, this is a pretty common sort of problem. Is replaying these sorts of things.
Thank you.
And Dave's done some of the right things, which is he stores the payloads so that he can do these replays. But for some reason today, the replaying that payload isn't cooperating with us to simulate this stuff coming in.
And so part of the problem is we've seen, like, when trying to throw the try catch around this whole thing, is this really actually, I think at this point, needs to be factored out solely for self-defense, because there's so much in here that when I have a problem, I can't figure out what's happening with the problem, because there's too much going on. I'm breaking out all these things. So what I really need to do is the convert to JSON.
The function is
nothing but convert to JSON.
Beefy. It's definitely needs to be broken up into pieces here.
Now, actually, although as I look at this, I might actually, although it's hairy, that might actually be legitimately hairy, because more I look at this, I realize I'm doing less logic than I think I'm doing. Some of it is because this logic in here involves some lookups, because I'm actually, so here's where so actually, as I look at this, it doesn't really actually need as much refactor as I thought, because part of this is when I get this origin code, you see that I've got a lot of these get or create type functions.
Mm-hmm.
Do I already have this airport? If I don't have this airport, I go through and I have to hit an API that populates the airport information. But if I do have it, what I want to do is get the sysid of it. And that's what this does. So one way or another, this is returning a sysid either of an existing record or a newly created record.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually, when I'm done, my JSON actually does, this is really, I thought that it was doing more logic than this. It really is just converting the JSON packet. So it's not as crazy as I thought at first glance. So if we look at this, we'll see that it does this, it converts that, and then it does the handled parsed itinerary. And so the itinerary, you'll notice it's got a world mate because this is all written in kind of the adapter pattern. This right here is converting it to my internal format from whatever it does. And I've had multiple of these parsing APIs. So like the JSON that comes out of this thing is one that I defined, not one that their system defined.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that whole thing in here is doing, is like putting it into my format.
That's right.
And this is, in fact, the second one of these that I used, because Sift was the first one that I started with.
You're normalizing all those.
Yes, I'm normalizing them into something that I can handle. And the same thing with the airline status, right? I've had multiple different APIs, and they all convert into mine before I do anything with them. So
right. Can we check on the...
I'm checking on it. It's actually, I have not... Oh, there we go. We have that. Let's go look at the record. So if we look at the flights, do we get... newly created.
Get 6.
We also did not get a newly created flight.
Did you refresh the list?
Just click on the breadcrumbs. It'll refresh it.
They're not clickable breadcrumbs. That's a static link or static filter. Oh, no, that is.
I was thinking that was going to auto update, but it looks, and I think I did the wrong thing just now because.
Yeah, you hit all.
Oh, I hit all. Ugh. All right. So I also didn't get my. All right. I'm going to try this.
But there is a Myrtle Beach for 6.4. Isn't that the one you deleted?
It's one I wanted to delete.
So that is.
But it was updated May 21st. I don't think that's the right one.
Let's do this. Let's go back to this thing. Let's make sure that Joker. Myrtle to Charlotte.
No, that was updated 10 days ago.
Okay, so that one, we want this one gone. Absolutely want this one gone.
Did we fail at deleting it?
I think we may have failed at deleting it. Now, why would we fail deleting it?
I don't know.
Make sure that this thing is gone. So the whole exercise of waiting just now. All right. It is definitely...
It's well and truly gone. There's 4 of them now, and where there was 5.
All right. We are going to re-forward my forwarded thing and create travel. And again, this is why I didn't want to, I just not digging, having to forward this thing. So if it was one of these things that if I were going to spend more time, if I were going to spend a lot of time with this, I would probably devote the time to figuring out why it's not happening, because this is not a thing I want to do regularly. And in fact, that may be what happens after we go off the air. All right. So I'm going back to go to my inbox and let's see. This one actually happened faster than I thought. I just was looking at the wrong. I was looking in focused and not the other. All right. So now we're waiting for that thing to pop up. And when it does, we want to see this flight recreated, and we want to see, does it create this flight immediately error because it's trying to do something.
With data that may not be there yet.
And let's say that is the case. All right.
And it's got a start time immediately, which is promising.
Okay.
Right?
It does have a start time. Now let's go look at our flows. When we look at the flows,
check the flow executions.
Let's do that again. We should have one that was just created.
The filter, or
why is this not? Okay, let's go back here. Register webhook Madrid.
23 after
1423.
Yeah.
Error.
Error.
And it ran twice and errored. Okay. Same error.
Same error.
Executed as guessed. What is this? I don't. Okay. So if we open current record, that will be the one that we were looking at just now. It's just created. No.
No.
That's not the one we were just looking at. So that actually explains why. Oh, you know what it is? I deleted the wrong Myrtle flight last time.
Oh.
Oops. Delete. All right. So this one of them is the flight on the 8th, and one of them is the flight on the 4th. Let's get rid of that.
The 41. Yeah.
Okay.
Check that.
So
record.
both of them errored out.
Same is 6-4 Myrtle to Charlotte. So this is the correct flight that we care about.
This is the correct flight. So when I open this record, no, not the contacts record. Where's my record?
Open current record.
Open current record.
Yeah.
And do we have the same problem that we had last time? Do we have a update that's a few seconds off of?
No.
No, see, we don't. Now, that is even more.
So we know that the data was there.
We know that the data was there, and yet it pooped out anyway.
Okay.
Which means.
So what in our start time is making this thing angry?
So let's go and flight record. And let's look at the log right now and see. So previously, this was an old record. So if we look at the log right now, do we get that? We get a more descriptive error in here.
And for any of you out there that are feeling like this is a lot of debugging, yes, it is. But not unusually so for a complex integration with multiple moving parts.
No thrown error. Failed with error. Scoped glide date time in my
It's all repetitive.
16,
yeah. So let's go. And did we say it was this thing right here? So here's where I really screwed up is I should have done was just
dump it.
Dump this right here.
Things.
Right for GDT, which stands for glide date time, not what you might be thinking. Let's see what. Let's do this. I'm gonna take this out. Var raw start time equals this. Just to guarantee that we're looking at the same thing.
Okay. All very reasonable things.
Yep. I'm not above burning a variable here or two.
All right. So I'll save this.
They cost nothing.
I'm going to do this really quickly. We're going to do this one more time, and we're just going to see what we can see from this guy. This is
all right.
Well,
can you invoke that execution from just updating the record in some form versus deleting and having it regenerated?
Can I say that again? I'm sorry.
How about you export that record to XML and then re-import it?
Oh, so to
the flight
to create it.
Okay,
will that trigger your
workflows?
If you export and import, it's just gonna. It's not gonna do anything.
It's not gonna. It's possible that the start time. Yeah, I think it's not gonna. Okay. I think it's not gonna do the thing that I want it to do.
All right.
But that is a. Yeah, I know what you're trying to do is short circuit the
circuit a replay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
let's do this. We'll do this one more time and then we'll call it done. And this is, I honestly wasn't expecting to take the defeat this way, but I'll do it because it's how you learn. All right. So the 6-4 flight, and we'll delete this one again.
Missing semicolon in line 17.
Did we miss a syntax thing? That's not a death killer, but okay.
It's not a death killer, but
let's get rid of it.
It's good to have.
All right. So let's do that. I'm forwarding right now.
Thanks, Tarek.
It doesn't have to be super. I just like that people are looking closely enough, because that is part of the value of the whole enterprise here.
Exactly.
Paired program times 5.
All right. So
did any of y'all ever do professional paired programming?
I did.
Yeah. I actually loved it.
I didn't, but I think it has to do with a boundary. It's a boundary issue. I just didn't like having to spend all day, every day. Because you guys are all old enough. Did you go through the XP prior to Agile?
No.
Yeah.
Extreme programming.
Right. That's where paired programming came from. Yeah.
That's where I like to say that Agile is everything that made sense out of extreme programming. Because there was a certain amount of weird dogma in extreme. There was a reason why it was extreme programming and not highly sensible programming. Okay, so the thing just hit.
All right.
We're going to see
a record. Yay, records.
We're going to look at our flow, and I expect we're going to see our execution.
Waiting.
There's one that's waiting, actually. Is that refreshing? I don't know if that refreshes, actually.
Click the breadcrumb.
The breadcrumb. Oh, the all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they've both errored. Okay. So now let's look at our log one more time. And this is, like I said, the last. We're just going to look at this and see what we can figure out from this.
Let's all go to the log file.
Wrong in the start time, as it's right before. No, that's egregiously wrong.
Well, there we go.
No wonder it failed.
No wonder you failed to parse that number appropriately. You think the number doesn't have a number.
And yet, when we go and look at the record from the context, it has that.
It had a number and it had not been updated. So the number, it couldn't have possibly changed.
Unless it was updated in the same second, which is not.
In the get value, is everything spelled right? We didn't misspell start time or something, which I've done. I spelled state time before.
Start time.
Okay. And that is what it's called, right?
Let's go look at the flat. Well, let's not take this on faith. Let's go directly to here. Let's look at the XML of this guy.
Well, you can right.
So this is the actual record. Do this right quick. What the huh?
You deleted that record. You need.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was funny.
That is reasonable and logical the way it was. So go.
Right,
darn computers doing what you tell them.
Yeah.
Let's go to this guy.
Yeah. Open current
record.
There's a long way to go to get a null.
Yeah.
And when we look at it, start _time is there. It's populated.
Interesting.
The record hasn't been updated.
So what this says, and so this now explains a lot. It doesn't tell us what's happening, but it tells us a lot about the situation, which is there is absolutely a timing dependent race thing happening here. So this says, I will have to look and see, I'll dig through this offline. Is there a create that's triggering the thing prior to, that's making the flow happen such that this is not populated at the point the flow happens?
That seems wow. That seems pretty freaky crazy that it would do that.
It really
I feel like it's more appropriate, more logical that there's some we're calling something wrong somewhere than the data's not there.
Yeah, the problem being that part of the whole idea of the script include as the central thing of the logic is that everybody is using the same logic, whether it's the workflow or the old flow or the new flow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not unique to this, but this flow is erroring and the other flow is not, for example. like the old flow that I meant to turn off is actually running, and it does exactly the same code, right? So, So it's, yes. Ooh, okay. So this is a hairier problem. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop the share.
Yeah. So
it is a hairier problem than I thought I was addressing, because it's one of those crazy, it's a timing thing. It's a hard to execute, at least as currently constituted, hard to execute by faking my webhook, which says that if I'm going to dig in on this, probably the very first technical debt I have to pay down is figuring out how I can make this happen with Script Explorer. Because if I could catch this in the debugger, we'd have a very different situation. Then like the next step is like, all right, what happens if I do this, if I create something and then immediately like call this? Like if I call this in from Explorer or from Scripts background, like what happens if I'm calling this on a like freshly created record? Because I can actually, I can do the create, I can do the create outside of a lot of this stuff by just passing it some of the information. So I could actually write a script that inserts the record, like the same way that the itinerary utils does, inserts that record, and then immediately the next line calls this. So that might be the thing I want to do. However, you know, part of the problem here is I'm realizing the get FA flight ID by GR.
Yeah.
There is a problem here in that if we look at this, sorry, I stopped the share. Never mind. Yep. But the if we look at the thing, that actually shouldn't be happening yet. So there's actually a logic. This explains why I'm seeing this here and not others. There's a logic problem in that it's supposed to be waiting until 2 days before my flight starts. Not doing that. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't make it this far because that's too far in there. Like the looking up, the whole reason I needed to wait is that flight ID doesn't exist until roughly 48 hours before the flight.
Oh,
that's why I used to have that weird loop in the workflow, and it's why the Madrid flow was so compelling to me, because you can now do that differential time waiting.
Yep.
I mean, that's like
You're getting that out of the flight record, though. The flight record exists and the start time is there. You're talking about
what it says is, what it says is in my flow, my Madrid era flow, the register webhook Madrid, it says, okay, the very first line is get the start time and then wait until 2 days before this time. And yet it's executing immediately right now. So that's actually, I think that's the first place to look. Is why is it proceeding past that? It should be waiting. It should actually be in a wait state and stay in the wait state until, so we're flying Tuesday morning. So it should not be going until Sunday
morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah. So the fact that it made it that far to error out is in fact part of the problem. Now, why the start ID is, the start time is null is, I think, also a problem. But in normal operation, it shouldn't even be an issue because you should be waiting. We should be waiting, and we're not waiting.
In general, because of our travel policies, of course, you're not going to be registering a flight that's going to happen less than 2 days from now, immediate. Like that's not a scenario that we run into.
Yeah. It actually was a scenario that there was a certain person in the group that used to do, but certainly I have never done that. I don't think I've ever booked less than 48 hours.
All right. So what we went through today is fairly, normal in this complicated of a integration, right? Is you have this dynamic data, you want to replay the scenario so you can fix a bug. And in doing so, you need to have setup and processes able to simulate that, right? And we have some of them, but we don't have all of them clearly to simulate those processes. And that's part of like if it was enterprise, right, we would be doing that. We're not.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. So
and this is part of that investment of making it that level. Is being able to debug it faster and easier.
Yeah, it's definitely because the like right now, the cost of building the infrastructure to do that is not in general
higher than the
we're into the XKCD cartoon, right?
Right.
How often do you do something, and how long is it going to take to script it before you get the payback? So
yeah.
Here's what makes this even worse is we're extremely close to that break-even point, probably, which makes the decision much harder. If it was clearly one way or the other,
now you have to invest in it if you want to get there.
If it clearly was going to pay for itself or clearly wasn't, both of those have an easy decision. And this has a not easy decision.
That middle ground is always tricky. All right. So thanks for everybody for staying on with us a little extra time. We'll go back around the horn the same order. So I will go first. My mango habanero sour ale was not as good as I wanted it to be. It sounds like
sour as you wanted.
The combination of flavors just didn't do what I wanted them to do together, and so it's like a 3.
Wow. Okay. All right, Chuck.
I really liked the Big Blue Van. It was very reminiscent of the Abita Purple Haze.
Purple Haze. Oh,
yeah.
That's a fan of this and that household there.
Yep. It's a blueberry wheat, so exactly what I expected, and I enjoyed it very much. So I'm giving it a 3.75.
I was drinking the Purple Haze when I went back to Louisiana. I had some Purple Haze. I was drinking them back in the 90s when Abita didn't distribute nationally.
Yeah.
So if you weren't a keg drive distance from Abita Springs, you didn't get the Purple Haze back then.
While we're at it, shout out to the people at 56 Brewing in Minneapolis. They hosted our innovation workshop on Wednesday, and great backdrop. We had a few issues with the Wi-Fi and the power, but they resolved it very quickly. And there was a recording studio right next door. So I was geeking out both sides of that building the whole day.
All right. And the short review lemon shandy, I have no idea what historically I've rated. It's like a 3.75. It's kind of this solid. Is the opposite of Andrew. I knew exactly what I was getting into. It's kind of exactly what I wanted on a really, really hot day in my hot office. So there you go. All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Come see us at developer@servicenow.com. And we love having you. And we probably will not have a show next week since we'll be traveling to a conference next week. But we'll be back 2 weeks from now, most likely. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.